I've been trying to keep things light here in Shark Uppercut Land, but sometimes a position like the one I hold demands you ask the hard questions, the ones that will immediately get half of your viewers to leave out of spite, but you still press on anyway. Questions like, hey, what's your favorite Weird Al polka medley? There are better ways to approach this, with a critical eye or statistical data to back you up, but man, that just seems like the wrong way to approach Al's masterworks. Just pure feels, just pure favorites. What hits me and what doesn't. One word of warning. If you don't like Weird Al's polka medleys, get out. You ain't wanna hear, partner. Nah, I'm kidding. Even if you have no taste, you are welcome to stay. Ladies, gentlemen, and all the other wonderful people under the sun, join me while I put my opinions on the internet with no remorse whatsoever. I thought it might be fun to compare my personal list with how well the songs from each medley performed on the Billboard Hot 100, and how they compare to the list Will Hines did for Vulture in 2015 using fuzzy stats to scientifically rank each medley. I also want to compare them to what you think, so I'm going to need to see some opinions in the comments. Make me think about some of these in a new light, I fucking dare ya. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got to groove out to the intro.
Call me Shark Uppercut, I'm Shark Uppercut. Call me Shark Uppercut, only Shark Uppercut. My name is Shark Uppercut, please Shark Uppercut. Call me Shark Uppercut, only Shark Uppercut.
I don't want to waste much time. I'm hungry to get right to the polkas. Number 13! The Hot Rocks polka from the UHF soundtrack 1982. I'm going to go out on my most controversial limb first thing and say that the main reason that this is my least favorite polka medley is because I really do not care for the Rolling Stones. In this medley, it's entirely populated by songs from a Rolling Stones greatest hits album called Hot Rocks. If you're into the Stones, you'll probably dig this a lot more than I do. I will say that the song suffers empirically from its lack of variety, but I'll give the Rolling Stonies some credit that I recognize most of the songs even though I've never actively tried to listen to their music. That's impressive. I can also really get behind the hoo-hoos from Sympathy of the Devil, and the accordion playing the Satisfaction riff. That rules. But Brown Sugar's glorification of slavery sounds even more gross and awkward coming from Al's lips than it did from Mick Jagger.
Scarred old slaver knows he's doing alright. Hear him with the women just around midnight.
Big blech. On the Billboard list, this medley came in 9th place, mostly tanked by a pair of songs that didn't chart, and it was 11th on Vulture's list, with Will Hines theorizing that critically acclaimed songs may not translate as well as goofy pop tunes. That takes us to number 12, Polka Party, from the album of the same name, 1986. This is the medley I'm least familiar with. Most of these things are ingrained in my brain from decades of listens, and I'm as likely to get Al's versions of most of these songs he's polka-fied to pop into my head as the real ones. Polka Party feels forced and foreign to me. It's just sort of there, disjointed and lacking flow. Outside of Nasty Boys, nothing really popped for me here.
Nasty! Nasty boys don't mean a thing. Oh, you nasty boys.
It's a subpar afterthought in these rankings. On the Billboard list, this medley hit 4th place due to a wealth of high-end top 10 hits, and it was 8th on Vulture's list, with little insight into why it placed as such outside of it being, quote, a great one, and a note that it's Al's first polka to serve as an accurate time capsule of its time. Not much to say here. How about number 11, Bohemian Polka from Alapalooza, 1993. Jesse Mack fun fact, Alapalooza was the first real CD I owned, getting it for Christmas alongside a CD player from my bedroom. But as for the polka itself, it's a truly audacious effort to apply the polka formula to one song, but it hurts it. It almost works because the original feels like 3 different songs on its own, but its real failure comes from lacking any sense of surprise or spontaneity. The Queen original is a stone-cold masterpiece of a big swing, and Al doesn't swing hard enough to meet its standards. The polka sound doesn't do enough to freshen things up, particularly the first stretch, and it's the rare occasion where Al has actually made the song sound flatter and less varied than the original. But, the end of the solo, where it goes trumpet, into synth, into clarinet, into tuba, is a total highlight. On the Billboard list, this medley was 3rd by virtue of Bohemian Rhapsody peaking at number 2 when Wayne's World brought it back into the zeitgeist, and it was 10th on Vulture's list. Pretty much mirrored my thoughts on it. Huge balls to try to cover Queen's magnum opus, but somehow sounds less crazy than the original. Number 10! Hooked on Polkas from Dare to Be Stupid, 1985. This one's not too great, at least when compared to Al's better polkas, but when you consider it's only his 2nd attempt at this, it's still impressive. His vocal choices on Sharp Dressed Man are noise,
Top coat, top hat.
incorporating that weird breakdown from Owner of a Lonely Heart is noise, And the overt sound effects in Bang Your Head? You guessed it. Noise.
Bang your head. That'll help will drive you mad.
It's a Weird Al polka medley. It's gonna be decent. On the Billboard list, this medley ends up at a respectable 6th best because it's mostly top 3 hits with a few outliers, and it was 5th on Vulture's list. Will didn't really talk about the medley and instead filled a paragraph with praise for Dare to Be Stupid. Not mad about it. He's right. It's amazing. Okay, on to number 9. Polkas on 45 from Weird Al Yankovic in 3D! 1984. I don't know if it's because he threw all his best ideas from a lifetime of doing this in his head into one song, but Al nailed the polka medley on Go 1. And it might be because I've heard this particular one since I was 3, but it has a real classic feel. He even knew doing a yodeling break was the way to go. A genius, this guy. It's weird to hear such a variety, with songs spanning decades and some of the biggest songs of all time rubbing butts with songs like Jocko Homo that didn't even get radio play.
Are we not men? We are Devo. Are we not men? Devo.
If you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably give you something entirely different, but my favorite moments this time were the labored breathing in Every Breath You Take,
Every breath you take.
how hard the transition into My Generation goes,
People try to put us down.
and that Lawrence Welk break. Hell yeah. On the Billboard list, this is in the lower half at 8th because of the choice to include those smaller hits, and Vulture's list put it at dead last, which is 12th because the list was compiled before the Hamilton polka was released. The rationale behind the placement was it being a jumbled mess of a song selection that lacks the slickness of his future work, which is true, but I still love it. I also love number 8, Polka Your Eyes Out from Off the Deep End, 1992. When I was a kid, before I had figured out what kind of music I liked Weird Al. But this medley is interesting, because it's the first one to come out after I started to figure out what quote-unquote real music I liked. But while that makes it resonate better, most of the music I found myself liking was not the music in this medley. The hit and quit burst of Tom's Diner is a great bit. And the way Al does a callback to Do Me Baby in the Humpty Dance segment and weaves them together is particularly inspired.
Do me, baby. Do the Humpty Hump. Do the Humpty Hump. Woo! Drum solo!
Yes, that too. The one bummer of the song is Ice Ice Baby being such a weak closer, and it belies the prowess future Al will show delivering rap lyrics.
If you get a problem, I'll solve it. Check out the beat while the DJ revolves it. Ice Ice Baby.
On the Billboard list, it's a respectable 5th because every song in the medley was a top 20 hit. And on Vulture's list, it ended up right at the top of the bottom in 7th place, saying the medley is served by the ridiculous of this era in music and Al's growing confidence making things feel less outright jokey. And so we move on to number 7. Actually, we're about halfway through the list, so let's take a moment to recognize some of Al's memorable non-album Polka Oddities. There's an early live version of Polkas on 45 preserved in beautiful VHS camcorder with some notable lineup changes, and after having the album rendition ground into my brain for 40 years, it's really something else to hear Al slip in 1999 by Prince or flippin' Stairway to Heaven. Insane stuff. Then there's an extremely weird accordion medley of the 1986 Record of the Year Grammy nominees with Polka King Frankie Yankovic.
Do you think we're related?
No, absolutely not.
And if you're a certain age, I am not, I was damn near 20 at the time, you may fondly remember Weird Al doing a Pokemon polka, a Pokemon, for Pokemon the Movie 2000. While we're cooled down and I've killed the momentum entirely, this seems like a good time for a quick ad break. Come back for the other half of the list! Thanks for sticking around. Let's dive right back into the action. Number 7! The Alternative Polka from Bad Hair Day, 1996. Now this was the music I was gravitating toward once I found my musical taste. I thought this would rank much higher because not only am I biased toward the source songs, but there's also some amazing craft at work here. The 90s were all over the place, and this was a good reflection of that. The SFX used to censor closer.
I wanna, you like an animal.
Wonderful. The yodel at the end of You Oughta Know? Oh my god.
You oughta know. Hey!
I will say the song sticks around too long on Basket Case.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine?
but it mostly works, and it's hard to get too mad about it because it's endemic of Al's tendency to do this with his closers from now on. On the Billboard list, this one rates at a dismal 12th because the Billboard Hot 100 had no respect for alternative music. When I looked into it and found out Bang and Blame charted, but Black Hole Sun never cracked the top 100, there's no way that's an accurate reflection of the times. I lived it. There ain't no way! Vulture's list, on the other hand, puts it in 6th place, and then doesn't talk about the medley, instead using this space to talk about Al's decision to focus on singles rather than albums in the future. It's been almost 10 years since this list was written, and I really wish Al had put more music out into the world. Well, no time to be sad. Number 6! Polka Power from Running with Scissors, 1999. This is a tour de force of songs and vocal deliveries. It turns out late 90s pop was an even better fit for polka than mid-90s alt. The breakdown with Intergalactic is legend, one of the very best things Weird Al has ever done.
Intergalactic, planetary, planetary, intergalactic, intergalactic, planetary, planetary, intergalactic.
And then 1 minute later, the freaking Doot Doots from Semi-Charmed Life hit, and I'm in heaven. The freaking Doot Doots! This song also has one of the best transitions from Sex and Candy into Closing Time, a natural ending song that is escalated wonderfully.
Yeah, Mama, this surely is closing time. One last call for alcohol.
On the Billboard list, this medley drops down to 11th for the same reason the alternative polka was in 12th. Alternative rock didn't chart relative to its cultural impact. And Vulture loved it, putting this one in 3rd place and comparing Al's continued refinement of his polka formula to Charles Schulz perfecting his Peanuts comic strip over 50 years. Okay. Number 5! The Hamilton Polka, non-album single, 2018. This is the choice I expect will ruffle the most feathers, but it's a purely opinion-based ranking, and I am of the opinion that the Hamilton musical is an absurdly dense and layered piece of work. So transcendent that my mom, who has never gotten down for a rap song in her nearly 70 years of life, still listens to the CDs I burned for her in her car. Exclusively. Nothing but Hamilton. For the last 7 years. On CD. So, like the Bohemian Polka, it's a worthy choice for deviation. I will say on every level I prefer the pure medleys, but this is maybe Al's best one purely from an artistic standpoint. The pure audacity of making the songs more complex than the musical itself, with transitional connections that live up to the pedigree set by Lin-Manuel's opus. I find it fitting that the only song that doesn't completely fit is You'll Be Back, which also doesn't fit in the original.
Oceans rise, empires fall.
But for how varied the musical is, everything else hangs together wonderfully, and nailing Daveed Diggs' lines faster and with harmonies is actually insane.
I'm in the cabinet, I am complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kissing it. Washington isn't gonna listen to disciplined dissidents, this is the difference, this kid is out.
A truly impressive remix in every sense, made more impressive by the fact that it still feels more like Al than anything. On the Billboard list, this is in dead last place as nothing from Hamilton's soundtrack ever charted, and as mentioned earlier, the Vulture list was released before the Hamilton Polka, although based on the statistical criteria, my guess is that it would have landed around 8th or 9th. And now it's time for... Number 4! Polka-Rama from Straight Outta Linwood, 2006. Hell yeah, Chicken Dance represent. Al is well and truly in his groove by this point, and even his bad choices feel pretty good. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice that the last 5 medleys he's done are also my top 5, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Beverly Hills being the only Weezer song to be in any of these feels like a slap in the face.
Beverly Hills, that's where I wanna be. Living in Beverly.
But in fairness, Al wanted Buddy Holly in the alternative polka, and also Beverly Hills is Weezer's biggest hit, so it's more of a mistake we made as a nation. The song sags for me for speed of sound and float on,
Birds go flying at the speed of sound to show you how it all began.
but it's the only real dip. This track motors the rest of the way through. I find Al's delivery on Don't Ya jarring even by Al sings embarrassing lyrics in a corny way standards.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me?
The run of R&B songs that end the song are a bit on the old corny nose too, but it works really well regardless.
When the pimp's in the crib, mom, drop it like it's hot.
With the shuffling stylistic switch-ups in Gold Digger, making it one of the best closers even with it being way too long.
Now I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke.
On the Billboard list, this medley lands at 7th, a mix of top 2 and bottom 50 hits averaging out to average. And the Vulture list agrees with me and has this in 4th, giving credit to pop music being more varied and it making the medleys more satisfying. Not untrue. We're up at the top, only bangers left, so what's gonna land at number 3? Angry White Boy Polka from Poodle Hat, 2003. Al's silly vibe absolutely slays nu metal's glum, serious edginess. I find the second half of Chop Suey, and the in particular, to be inspired. Last Night is an absolute groove in a way that must have made the Strokes so jealous. Hell, even Ball with the Ball rules on this thing. My only dissenting opinion is that Renegades of Funk is the rare bad song choice when Rage had so many other hits I would have loved to hear get the polka treatment. But it's a quibble, and this is one of the very best. On the Billboard list, this one hits an unsurprising 10th place for exactly the reason you'd expect. The only song to even break the top 20 is Real Slim Shady, so the average chart placement is dismal. Vulture's list also didn't love this, placing it in 9th because the novelty of taking dudes down a peg didn't outweigh the blandness of dudes duding so hard. So now, the moment of truth. Only 2 medleys left, both from the 2010s. Here we go. Number 2. Now that's what I call polka, from Mandatory Fun, 2014. This is an even stronger than usual snapshot of music of its era. Wrecking Ball dominates almost the whole first minute, which is a bummer, but it swings back to the dumb sounds and best song ever, and transitions directly into Gangnam Style. Chef's kiss. Maybe my favorite moment is that I'm Sexy and I Know It is played mostly straight, and it works.
I'm sexy and I know it.
And that builds into Thrift Shop, which bumps so much harder than Macklemore ever could.
He wears your granddad's clothes. That's right. He looks incredible. He's in that big old coat. It's from the Thrift Shop.
The only issue is the bloated bookends, as it ends with almost a minute of Get Lucky.
We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get
If it wasn't for that, this is an all-time best that makes me hunger for Al to take a swing at the last decade in music with another medley. They just keep getting better. The Billboard list agrees, with this having the highest charting entries, exclusively top 3 hits, and I'm in lockstep with Vulture's list once again, placing it in second and noting that Al's treatment seems to get less condescending as he gets older. He also mentioned that Mandatory Fun as an album hit number 1, with Al ending his album career by becoming the very definition of popular music. Which means, number 1 is Polka Face from Alpocalypse 2011. I'm glad he made the easy joke. The irony is this is one of my least favorite medleys based on the songs sampled, but everything works bonkers well in this one. Al has become an absolute master of his craft by this point. The Lady Antebellum song overperforms wildly.
It's 1:15, I'm a little drunk and I need you now.
And I especially like the long singing of Tool in So What. The trumpets doing baby cries and baby.
Baby, baby, baby.
And the duck calls and alcohol.
Blame it on the goose, got you feeling loose. Blame it on the throne, got you in the zone. Blame it on the
I can't say enough good things about this song, so I won't. The song speaks for itself. On the Billboard list, this is second only behind the last one due to an absurd 9 number 1 songs, and Vulture's list also thinks Al peaked at Polka Face, with Will wondering how badly conceived his scoring system was, but agreeing that it nailed the winner, and showing some love for the song ending with a reprise of the opening Poker Face. He's right. That was a great choice.
Poker Face. Hey!
And that's my list. I've got to tell you, before listening to these and really hastily throwing this list together, I did not expect things to shake out this way. I thought Alternative would take the whole thing, but Al stepped up his craft so hard in the back half of his career, so far. Please come back, Al, we need you. Your last pop medley had Wrecking Ball on it. You've been away for far too long. Take whatever time you need. We can wait. Anyway, he stepped it up so hard that the later medleys just steamrolled everything. And that's how you want it. Even if music's not how it used to be, Al makes it better. So thank you for all of these, Weird Alabaster. You've made the lives of multiple generations a little bit brighter. Okay, here's the part where I ask that you like and subscribe, and truly, give me some opinions in the comments. It's not just a call to action for engagement. I want to know. I'm also killing the Patreon because nobody cares, and that includes me. I never really got my stuff together for it. And also, the YouTube watch stats tell me that no one wants to hear me read a book at the end of these videos, so I'm cutting that as well. It's a real shame. Book's amazing. So with that said, I'll see you in the next one, and as always, fuck R. Kelly.